Hi guys, it's Fana, and welcome to the Gremlin's Lair.
Hello. Welcome back, everybody. It's good to be here.
So, it's been pretty good, and
It hasn't been as long this time. I actually recorded this in a timely
I
manner.
know we're being proactive, but
We are.
I want to take a moment for this place in history. It is the 10-year anniversary of Tangled, which is the best Disney princess movie. And it's a national holiday.
So here's a question. Speaking of which, I just checked over at Twitter because I always like to, throw something at you that you're not expecting.
No, I want to talk about Tangled.
No, it is. It's about Tangled. It's about Tangled.
Ah!
So it comes from Rotten Tomatoes. So
okay.
The question they posed to Twitter is, in celebration of Tangled's 10th anniversary today, we're asking an important question. Is it a better film than Frozen?
Yes.
By like a mile, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I don't know.
Look, here's a little that I saw people being upset about, like randomly, just the other day, because for some reason, Tangled was always my favorite Disney princess movie.
Right, and I knew this early when we started dating.
Well, but I hadn't watched it for years until recently. But for some reason, I've been on a major Tangled kick. Like, I have a sticker in the mail that's coming in. I have a new phone case coming in for Christmas that's Tangled. I have like an exclusive like box lunch pot figure. I bought this really pretty ribbon to make myself a lanyard for my keychain. Like, I've been in a Tangled mood. Like, I'm even contemplating that, like, eventually I want to get a sleeve or a leg sleeve tattoo. I'm like, it'd be really cool to do like a floating lantern as like the filler. Like, I have just been in a Tangled mood. Anyway, I was reading like discourse on Tangled, and some people were being really nasty about the fact that she's blonde and she's pretty naive. And it's like, they're like, she's the stereotype. And it's like, well, guys, one, she's naive because she's been locked in a tower her entire life and horribly abused and manipulated. And two, the rhyme is, let me climb your golden stair. Like, she's a blonde. She's always been blonde. Like, always.
Like, this isn't new news, kind of thing.
Right, like, she, yeah, like, she's blonde. Like, I'm sorry.
She's very blonde. I mean, I enjoy. I mean, I was exposed to pretty much every princess movie because I grew up with two sisters, and I think I liked Tangled. I never had an issue with Tangled. It wasn't one that I would grab right away, but it was definitely one that I didn't mind watching if that was what we were choosing to watch that day, like with me and my other girl cousins. So that happened a lot. But
it's not like when I made you watch Barbie, Princess and the Pauper with me and your family members.
Which I've already seen, by the way. That's the caveat to that whole story. Was I absolutely saw that a long time ago, because I think we own most of the Barbie movies and have the series on Netflix.
I remember being in high school, and it was just me and my dad one night for some reason. I don't know why, but like, we randomly put it on, and my dad literally came downstairs and sat and watched it with me, because he's like, I always loved this one, like Barbie, Princess and the Pauper. And I think that one holds a special place in my heart, because rewatching it with you relatively recently, it's trash. It's terrible.
The
but
animation
I love it.
is so bad.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. I can't.
I love it. And like, I love the songs. And like, whenever I hear any of like that kind of stuff, it makes me think of my cousin. Like, she and I used to sing and watch it. Like, it makes me happy. But like, Tangled, I actually like really love and appreciate. The only thing I don't like about Tangled, her head is too big for her body. That's it. Her proportions are just off. It's not even that her eyes are huge. I know that's most people's issue with it. It's for me, it's that her head's too big.
You know what
But that's not going to stop me.
no, my issue is that when what's his name gets stabbed, there
Oh,
should be
Flynn.
blood gushing all over the floor.
No, no, but the attention to detail of that scene, like I have read so many like analytical things about how like it's just
Here, can I ruin your day real quick?
no, no,
By the way, the witch or
no.
mother falling out of the tower is
Mother
the like
Gothel.
right has like the best compared to the scene from Coraline where the spider jumps down into the web. That shot,
Uh
like it is almost a mirror, and I love it.
that just ruined my day. I honestly think that's cool.
Santa
I
likes
can.
Coraline. She hates when I do the impressions.
Oh, we just actually watched Cubo, or I was like my third time watching it, and your
That was
first
my
time.
first. That was my first. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was good. No, it
love
was very good.
love it.
I mean, and I was saying this after we watched is that I'm such a sucker for Asian culture and especially
Mm-hmm.
in animation. Like obviously I am not exposed to it at all. But like for some reason like seeing it on screen always amazes me in some way. Like a lot of the practices that they talked about, a lot of the rituals they talked about, how accurate they are obviously is always up for debate, and I'm not even going to pretend like I actually know. But it's always something. It feels a little more magical than just seeing something about someone like me. Is that if that makes sense?
Yes, yes, and I appreciate it for the story, but not only that, the art style. Just I always loved
Yeah,
stop motion to begin with, but you and I talked about this. The fact that in Kubo, it was stop motion made to look like origami, like made to look like paper.
yeah.
It's like that's just another layer of I die whenever I watch the behind the scenes for that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Everything in film, especially animation, is always intentional. So there's
Well,
like these people are amazing when they come up with these like itty bitty little things that really make it whole and make it all worth it for the audience. Like it's stuff that they
right.
know a lot of people won't notice, but for the people who do, like you, it means a lot, kind of thing.
Well, and it's like I'm definitely 100% not one of those people saying that digital art's not real art. Like, I think a lot of people think, like, oh, the computer made it.
Well, as a
No,
digital
like, you're
artist, I would
still.
assume you wouldn't say that.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I know the stigma people have with that. But then also, I think where I'm going with this is stuff like Coraline, where it's all handmade or it's all animated frame by frame. And I guess technically they're puppets because that makes me think of Jim Henson, like The Dark Crystal, or the prequel TV show, Age of Resistance for Dark Crystal was, oh my gosh, there was a whole documentary on Netflix of the making of the TV show, and it did not get picked up for a second season, which is so disappointing because it was gorgeous, but I can't imagine how expensive it was because everything was physical. These puppets that had like three animators or three puppeteers in it just to puppet one like Skeksis. Like it was so like my jaw was on the floor the entire time. Like even like there was a puppet show within the puppet show type thing, like, and it
Right.
had Barnaby Dixon, who's he's known for his hand puppets. He was part of it too, and just even like even the silhouettes of the puppets were puppets still. Like it was just like like mind blown. I just these artists are just can't
And I
even these
even want to
artists.
and I even want to come to the defense for the people who's like, oh, the computer did it. Even if it is just strictly computer animation, shut up, because there's those people have to work a lot more than you even realize. Like there's a lot of motion capture involved. There's always a bunch of still hand drawn digital art stuff involved that goes
Well,
into making
yeah,
these things. We're not just taking a figure. I say we as I'm a part of. They're not just taking
right,
a figure and a model in Cinema 4D and just messing with it and making it move. That's not how that works. There's a lot of stuff that goes into digital animation even still. Yes, I agree. Handmade animation, such as stop motion or claymation, like that stuff is always amazing in its own right. But, you know, digital animation still deserves the credit that it gets and for good reason.
right. Well, I think that's why I enjoy making dolls, because it's like, it's one thing to draw a beautiful picture. It's still not any different kind. It's a different kind of talent. But to me, I like the dolls because I can. It's more tangible. I can touch it. Like, I might be able to draw and put way more detail in an illustrated face
Mhm.
rather than my dolls, but I can't hold this illustration that I spent hours on. I can hold the doll and see it.
Yeah,
And
right.
it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, as it always is. I mean, that's always a stark contrast between me and you. A lot of the time is that your art is always more handmade, and the creativity that you
Mm.
have there is different than the creativity that I might possess because all of my stuff is digital, like everything.
Right,
So
right.
it's stark. I mean, I don't think we ever undercut each other into
No.
the work that goes into both of our crafts. It's just it's a grass is greener type situation. Like all the struggles that you go through doing stuff by hand, you switch over to the other side, you're gonna hate a lot of stuff over here too. Like there's struggles, there's positives, there's negatives, and there's limitations in every single piece of you know way of art.
Well, and it's part of that of like, I might not understand quite. Like you and I do edit, but nowhere near on the level that you do. Like, so I can kind of understand when you're like ranting and raving about different things. But like, I was just talking to my friend, like, I was talking about some struggles at my job, and she was talking about struggles at her job, and they're so vastly different fields that we don't really understand each other's problems, but we're
Right.
still there for one another because each problem is so different for each person.
Sure.
And I mean, and that can be for art too, like something that I struggle with and I hate how it turns out. You might not struggle with, or you might think that what I did was fantastic.
Mhm.
Like it's just that kind of expectation of your own art that a lot of artists I find don't are not happy with their work.
It's it's funny how it happens because for those who have a massive audience, like a lot of the artists that say you watch on YouTube and stuff like that, they have millions of subscribers. Most of them don't know the process a lot. Like, yeah, a lot of the videos that they make probably show the processes that they go through to actually make their art, but
Now, who are you saying is the they, the audience or the artist?
the artist. So the artist,
Okay.
goes through a lot to create their stuff, right? And even if they make a video showing off a lot of the processes that the artist goes through, um, the people who watch, especially those who have big following, don't even know the half of it, right? Like, and so it's very easy for them to be a lot more impressed, whereas the artist is looking at that same exact thing and knowing what went into it, knowing where they messed up possibly or where they could have done better, and he immediately focuses on that, whereas most of the people have no idea. Like that's why I think you're definitely talented in your craft, but like most of your audience, I would argue, is other doll makers. You know what I mean? So they understand. So there's
Right.
a difference between a lot of those who have a following. There's a lot more people ready and willing to be like, oh, this is so good, this is so good, this is so good, versus say someone of your size. No offense to you, I'm not trying to say it's a bad thing. I'm just saying
No,
that's a
I'm
difference
yeah.
in community.
Well, and also like I know, just thank you for the compliment, but like it's like I put out on average a 15-minute video.
Right.
That's 15-minute process of something that usually takes me at least 6 hours.
Right.
At least 6. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times I don't record all of it, but I'm looking at 6 hours worth of footage that
Mm-hmm.
I cut down to 15 minutes. Like, so what my audience is seeing, and I try to be very honest in my videos of this didn't work. Might not show you the process, but I will admit that this is like the third attempt. I just had a
Yeah.
video where I literally said, this is the second hat that I made, and I still hate it. And I literally like chucked it off screen. It's like,
Yeah.
you didn't see the 2 hour that, I don't know if it's 2 hours, but at least the hour that went into
Just the work in general.
prototyping, right? Prototyping, making the one hat, making the second hat, and then it didn't even end up in the final doll. Like,
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, so let me, oh man, let me take you for a little bit of a walk for this because this is going
you
back
have to buy
to
me dinner first.
true. So I'll buy you dinner after this, I promise. So, um, back when I mentioned before how the start of my YouTube thing
Like
career,
in
if I
quotations.
don't even want to say YouTube career because it's not like I'm a YouTuber. I the only thing I do is stream to it, so I don't
Right.
even think that counts. So like
I don't
I
even
was
consider
in,
myself a YouTuber.
yeah, but you're much more a YouTuber than I,
All
per
right. Anyway,
se.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
I'll
it's
be
good.
quiet on my walk.
No, so I was in the community for the game Call of Duty that would come out every year, and I was an editor in this community, which entailed that I would, and I mentioned this before, I would take highlights and from other players and make montage type videos with those clips to music to over the top stuff, right? But here's the thing: anybody in that community knows that there's standards. And if for whatever reason your montage didn't meet the standard, you got absolutely roasted for it. Like, so, and this is going to sound so stupid when I explain this because it's more about the edit. The editor typically doesn't have too much to lose. All they need to do is find some funky beat, put the clips in there, sync them to the beat of, when they're shooting the gun and the beat of the drum, right? Kind of thing. But the player has to have certain standards when it comes to the clips that we show. So I'll try to explain this as dumbed down as I can. So in Call of Duty, if you've never played it, right? It's a war combat game, right? When you kill somebody, there's a piece of text that pops up on the bottom of the screen that says like you killed player 5, right? It also shows like other people on your team killing other people or your opponents killing your teammates, etc., right? So it may say you killed player 5, and then right under that it'll be like player 7 killed player 3, player 9 killed player 2, and so on, right?
Mm-hmm.
The standard for getting these types of clips was getting 4 kill stacks. So basically it's like
Right.
player 1 killed player 5, player 1 killed player 6, player 1 killed player 8, player 1 killed player 12, like that kind of thing. Like, and if you got split in the text on the bottom left corner of the screen, so if it went like player 1 killed player 8, player 1 killed player 9, player 3 killed player 10, player 1 killed player 5, that's immediately an unusable thing just because of this piece of text. And what
Which is
has
so
happened?
silly.
Oh, it's silly. It's so silly. It meant a lot to us back then. Like that, like you lived and died by the bottom left corner of the screen. And it caused some turmoil because what would happen was there would be, if you, like, say I edited for somebody and the player had a clip that was split, as it was called, right? It would, 30,000 dislikes, it would get dislike ratioed like out of death. Like it immediately, it didn't matter what. There was a big player and editor who made a very big project with this in mind, right? The editor made what's called a hardcore edit, which basically just meant it was an edit that had over the top color correction and metal music. Okay. That was called hardcore
Mm-hmm.
editing back in the day because everybody was really into dubstep because that's like gamer music. Anyway, so but then the issue was that because he made a hardcore edit and he had over the top color correction, he covered a lot of the bottom part of the screen. So people got mad at the editor, even though the player's like, but that's what I wanted. Like,
Right. Right.
but the people
It's
were
my
getting mad at
artistic
that,
driven.
right? And so they were trashing the editor for this. So the player was like, okay, so just to appease you guys, I'm just gonna upload all the clips that we used raw, so you could see what actually they were actually like legit clips as they were called. It was so cringy. It was so cringy.
But
So what I'm saying is like you had a tougher crowd to please in this community. Like there weren't people ready to sing your praises. It was all
but it's
competitive.
it's funny because that there's no creative freedom in that.
There,
If it's people forcing you to fit into the mold of if
yep,
you're a Call of Duty montage editor,
yep,
this is what you do, which is
yep.
foolish. And like I think every art community falls into that though, because there are so many, I see so many dollars I've gotten comments though of myself of, well, this big artist does this way, or you copied this big artist, and it's like
Oh,
no, like I am allowed to take the same very loose concept. I saw one of my friends get horribly attacked for something, for doing like an evolution. like an
It
evolution
was
series, because another artist also did an evolution series.
I
And
have
it's
it
just like,
constantly.
and that's not even like attacking someone for the same editing style. Like, it's a whole different, completely different art style to begin with.
But
And it's just,
you still got wrapped on for that. You it was called flow. So one of the big things in editing was flow, which in modern editing terms would be just considered the rhythm of the edit. You don't
right,
want it
yeah.
to be so jarring, right? So and you have a song that you want to incorporate into the edit, right? So there would be flow. And it can get choppy. It's hard because a lot of time what you had to do is you were trying to sync the player killing somebody in the game with the beat of the music, which meant you had to do a lot of what's called speed ramping, where you had to speed up the clip by like 300% and then slow it down by 50% and speed it back up. It's really easy to screw this up. And what would happen was if you messed it up, you got yelled at for that. And then if you stole somebody's flow or used a similar song as somebody else, as a big editor did, like if a bigger editor used a song, it was like a general like gentleman's agreement that you could not use that song on elsewhere because people would be like, oh, that was used in SLP's montage. It's like it made no sense. It was
But
so
okay,
competitive for
so
no reason.
you can't copy the flow, but your editing needs to be exactly the same.
Yep. Yes. You
Okay.
see how
Yeah,
crazy
because that makes totals. And my hair tie just snapped right off. Okay.
and you also
The
had to
hair's
like
coming down, guys.
I mean, and you also had to like your the way you introduced everything had to be kind of the same too. You had to do what's called motion tracking, which was
Yeah.
it was the same thing. It was motion tracked on some piece of one of the maps in the game. Like, and back on the game I was editing with was called Black Ops 2, and it had a theater mode where you could go back and watch replays, and you could actually set up cameras to do movements for you, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
They don't include it in the new ones anymore, and it's really annoying because it was one of my favorite tools to use ever as somebody who was discovering quickly during this era what they wanted to do for a living. Um, don't
That's so sad.
uh-huh.
Did your
Anyway,
job get harder?
shut up. Anyway, so
I love you.
uh-huh. So just completely lose. Okay. So you had to include the text in like doorways or openings of the map, and it had to say basically the exact same thing. So the clan I was in, I'm going to expose myself, and I'm going to send this to my boy Brendy because he's going to cringe when he hears this because he was a part of this with me. It was like Bolo Clan presents the players' names. So I'll say Bobby in something episode, whatever. Every player had what's called episodes. It would be like their newest montage. So they had some crazy name. So there was a player I did an edit for called Monkey. His episodes were called Funky Monkey. So it was like Funky Monkey episode 1, Funky Monkey episode 2, Funky Monkey episode 3.
Beautiful.
And you had to set it up just like that. It was always like 3 like slides of that title in the game. And then, okay, now montage. And yeah. So it was a tough crowd to please. You were not appealing to a casual Call of Duty viewer. You were appealing to the rest of the community at large, and you have to take the heat. I got heat because I'm a big metalhead, and I mentioned hardcore editing earlier. Well, the problem is not a lot of people liked it, but I got permission one time to do it because I was basically being annoying, and I was like, okay, I'm so sick of using these like drum and bass electronica songs. Can I try something different for this next project?
Well, who did you get permission from?
There was a leader in every single group that you were a
Okay.
part of, so everything had to go through them. There was a hierarchy to this,
Okay.
which is what led a pile of people away from the group just as much as it brought them in. So, they gave me permission one time. So and you had to use royalty free stuff because YouTube.
Yeah,
So the one time I trolled the entire viewer base because I used a metal cover of One Direction's best song ever, I think is what it's called. And we danced all night. I don't want to get copyrighted. I forget. But it was a One Direction song. I lit the comments on fire. They were so mad that I used that for some reason. I'm like, it fit though. So like, why are you mad at me? I don't know why you're being mad at me. So I think that's where a lot of my immediate hatred for work started to comment. I was editing on such a terrible piece of hardware too. We're talking like a out of the box Staples laptop kind of thing, and it wasn't the best, but I worked with what I had, and you
Well,
ended up having to cut a lot of corners.
did you did you not like your work though? Like, did you enjoy were you unhappy with the quality of your work, or were you unhappy with the end result because you
It
didn't have that creative freedom?
I think it was I had a lot of creative burnout issues while I was in this community because again, you were getting told to basically edit the same thing over and over and over again, like in the exact same way, right? Now, there were definitely there was room for creativity, don't get me wrong. There was people who knew like how to do 3D modeling that incorporated that into their edits. I didn't know how to do it. I did it once and it wasn't great, but that was my attempt to try to get it to be just to bring the quality up just a tad kind of thing. Um, but I think that there was a lot of pressure to always one up yourself always, which I should have that. I have that drive now for myself. And I think maybe some of that early work conditioned me to do so. But it was basically like at risk of kind of alienating the rest of the community or getting alienated from the rest of the community for having a bad edit kind of thing. Like is what I kind of think it was, You had a lot of people to please. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so when you moved more into your own original content, like how did you deal, like, you no longer, when you move into your own original content, you don't really have that flow standard, I guess, if you will. Like, you didn't
Yeah.
have these regulations by the community, so you only had your own personal guidelines. Like, how did you deal with, or what, how did you judge your own quality of work by yourself?
Well, this is what was good and what kind of I went out on kind of a high note type thing. So the original clan I was in was called Bolo, and I was having issues with the leadership where I wasn't happy with the direction, like, and a lot of miscommunication issues that were happening.
You're a
So
rebel.
I ranted to a fellow editor friend of mine at the time who I'm still friends with to this day. And he was starting to at that time move up in that world, and he got pretty far. For our standards, I went a whole massive rant about the whole thing, right? And then all of a sudden, like 10 minutes later, I get a message on it. We were all using Skype at the time, which oh my god, I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to die. Um, it's so bad for big groups like we were, like, because there's like
Oh
50
yeah.
people in all these chats. So if you
It
were in
wasn't a
multiple of
server
them,
like Discord, yeah.
no, Discord would have been. Oh, if Discord was around during this era, oh, it would have been. Oh, it would have been so great. So 10 minutes later, I get like a message from another clan called Sprint, and they wanted me to hop on. So I joined them and left I didn't leave the other clan. I was still like leading the editing department of the first clan, but I joined a bigger clan because apparently he reached out and vouched for me, my friend Ethan, and vouched for me and got me in. So that was a nice change of pace. A few months later, Sprint ended. They closed doors. I don't even know why. I just logged on one day and they said we were done and we're not doing this project anymore. So I'm like, okay. So
Okay.
after that, I went what's called
You're fired?
yeah, I went what's called solo. So basically, like anybody could come grab me if they wanted to, as long as their leader said so. And but I don't. There's really no pressure for me because what are they going to do? They can't kick me out of myself. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it was almost like it was freelance work. I never got paid for any of this stuff, by the way. I want to make this abundantly clear. This was all volunteer just because we were big fans of the game. But you know, so at that point, I felt the pressure start to alleviate, and I felt a lot better with my work around that point. And I started to kind of phase out of that whole community. But as I was ending my high school career and starting to move on to bigger and better things, so
Mm-hmm.
but I look back on that era with fondness. It was just interesting the pressure that you were basically getting put on from like 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds
Yeah.
and such. It was an interesting time period.
But that doesn't answer my question.
To what? How did I deal with the pressure of it?
No, I meant your own original content
Oh, like,
now.
well,
How do you
that's what I was
judge
trying to
that?
transition to was like, so going solo was technically kind of be my original content because then I started creating other stuff too because I actually had the
Mm-hmm.
time to do so. Um, I think if what ends up happening now was as I'm creating original content, more or less, right? I'm creating this podcast with you. I'm creating another podcast that I'm working on with my buddy Tyler, and have numerous other projects in development. I think there's a higher standard that I start to give myself, but I feel like I put that standard too high, if that makes sense. Like, because back then it was like you always thought that this ad was going to be the one that kind of threw you up the ranks and joined like the biggest teams in the community.
Okay.
So I treat every work like it's live or die. Like,
probably not a good mentality.
No, well, that's the thing. And that's where I'm going to kind of say here, like, your question's hard to answer because I know I don't do it in the healthiest of ways. I put a lot of pressure on myself day in and day out about trying to please whoever I have to please at any particular time. I would say that, I have a piece of paper behind me, and I know it can be kind of worthless at times, right? But it says, I know what I'm doing, right? And I do know what I'm doing. But what ends up happening a lot of the time is there's too many cooks in the kitchen and stuff gets messed up, or I have to cut corners, and I hate cutting corners. And
yeah, but that's... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. What are you going to say?
But that's for like client work. That's not... I'm talking about purely
me
content. Yes, purely
well, then that goes into a whole thing of imposter syndrome for me, where I feel like everything I make is not going to be good enough because I've always loved gaming content, right? Like I want to create more gaming content, just because I'm a freaking gamer. Like, this is what I sit here and do when I'm not working, right? And obviously not talking to my girlfriend.
You game when you're talking to me too. Like, I can hear the button mashing. Like, don't. You're not slick, buddy.
And
I'm playing my app games too. Don't worry.
You know what I should say? It's not even like that. I don't think it's going to be good enough. It's that like everything's so saturated and everything is so like I think I could create original content that's different from everybody else's. But then I start to worry about the numbers too much, where I feel like I'm just going to get lost in the fray again. I know you know this all too well, where I feel like I'm going to get lost in the fray. And then what I end up doing is I end up obsessing over that thought over no one's going to see this. No one's going to watch it. It's not going to do anything for me. I'm better off just trying to figure out how to go get more client work or go get more corporate based work, go get more stuff instead of that original content. You know what I mean? The good thing about this podcast and the other podcasts that I've done where I've been with other people is that, one, the people who you included, I'm going to put words in your mouth. I know you're going to deny it immediately, but I know you and Tyler both think that I'm actually pretty decent at what I do. And especially for what the effort I do that I put into the show. And it's nice to hear that all the time. Whereas it's a lot colder when you're just kind of making something for yourself and trying to spread it to the masses and you're not hearing anything. You know what I mean? You almost feel like that work becomes so much less worth it at that point. You know what I mean? So here I feel very happy and feel a lot more proud of what I do. Whereas I'm just so timid and scared to create something outside of that. And I also just don't think I'm the greatest on camera personality. I think I'm somewhat entertaining, but trying to convince an audience of that, I feel like is hard. But I'm not even giving myself the chance.
Exactly. Like, and I like you, okay, I guess. Like, I get self-conscious about my personality a lot with my videos because I know that I reference my doll art a lot right now because that's what I guess I'm doing the most of, like, online. Like, I had someone comment the other day about my voiceovers, that she really, really liked my voiceovers. And I'm always very self-conscious about that. And what she was saying was exactly what she loved, was what I had always been worried about. She's like, you're entertaining, you're not boring, like, you're interactive, like, you're editing, like, it's funny. And I'm like, thank you. Because, like, this is the stuff that, like, I don't know. And it's like, I get so wrapped up in the numbers, and when my numbers don't grow, like, YouTube has steadily grown, slowly but steadily. Instagram hasn't grown in like 2 years. I
Right.
think I've maybe gained like 100 followers in 2 years because it keeps
Mhm.
rising. I've recently thought about like, why not just abandon the Instagram? There's no point. Like, it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of like, that's depressing. And I get wrapped up. Oop, sorry.
That's the second episode in a row where you've had the alarm
I'm
go off, and you're.
sorry. I'm sorry.
I know.
And
I'm just messing.
I know. It's just kind of like, I get so wrapped up in the numbers because I feed off of not even praise, just interaction. Like, I feed
Yeah.
off of comments and stuff that, like, you don't even have to say like, oh my god, the doll's beautiful. Just be like, hey, like, I thought of this, like, you doing this made me think of, like, I think, like, some people, I did this witch series, like, someone was like, I think, like, her magic would be cool doing this. It's like, you didn't even say anything about the doll, but me making this character made you think of, hey, this would be a cool idea for her magic to do. Like,
Right.
that makes me so happy. Like, and when I get fan art of my creations, like, oh my god, like, mwah, chef's kiss, like, blows me away, because it's just like, I don't know, but when I don't get those numbers, and after I spend so much time and energy on something to put out there, especially, I don't enjoy editing. I don't like it. Like,
I don't
it
blame
is
you.
a
As an editor, I don't blame you.
it is a pulling teeth process.
Oh
And
yeah.
to spend that grueling process to have a couple hundred people view it, if that, it's
Mm.
just so demoralizing. And it's hard for me. For years I've been like this. Like, I do need the numbers a little bit. And maybe it's probably very unhealthy. But
Yeah.
I do need some kind of numbers to create more, because that is a major motivation for me. And I don't know if it's like necessarily wrong.
It's not wrong. It shouldn't be your only motivation. It can be a
Right.
motivator, but it's certainly, and it should mean something to you, but it shouldn't be your only motivator. You should, you know,
Right.
I've even said to you before, like you should always enjoy what you're doing, and if you don't, reevaluate when you can. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's important. Like you shouldn't be forcing yourself for numbers like that. Like there's that's what's great about being there's pros and cons of being a content creator, and I get for a lot of people they have to make a lot of the same content that their audience is used to, and I totally get that. And sometimes they want to expand and it doesn't get received very well.
Right.
Like, and I hear that, especially for a lot of the creators who have a pretty decent following at this point. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who just support the artists for who they are and what they're about, that they'll support anything they do. And that's always great to me. And that's something we see out of the gaming community a ton, where there's such a diverse set of content and a lot of people don't care what certain entertainers or creators do. They just like that they're there and that they exist on the platforms that they exist on.
Right. And it's just, yeah. I don't know. It's just kind of, and then you hold yourself to a standard of, I used to be an art channel, and then I became a doll channel. And now when I do make when I do make like general art content of like a painting or a digital art, like, I
Yeah.
get absolutely no traction. And it's like,
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
it's still me. Like,
Yeah.
it's the editing hasn't changed.
Mm.
The for better or for worse, like,
Yeah.
the stupid voiceovers have not changed, for better or for
Yeah.
worse. It's still me, but it's just interesting because then I was like, I want to draw something.
Right.
Great. But then when I draw something and no one wants to see it, then it's like, for me, it demoralizes wanting to do it again. It's like, I tried and failed. And I believe it or not the way that I'm talking, I've gotten significantly better about doing things for myself and doing things because I want to.
Right.
But
I mean, you see,
like,
this is a process I'm still learning now. Like that, I just need to not worry about if people are seeing it or not. You know what else I've been noticing about myself lately is that I keep thinking, am I too late to get on this train? Which is a really weird thought. And do you know how weird it is seeing, 18, 19-year olds just creating content and being able to amass the following that they had and be able to live off that type of thing. And me sitting here at 23, which is not old, and I know
No,
this
not at
by
all.
any means, and I have a lot. I'm just starting my career, but it's weird how I look at it when I look at something like YouTube, something I would love to continue to do for a while. But I feel like I almost missed the bus kind of thing, even though that's probably
Yeah.
not true. But this
And
has been
it is,
something I've
yeah.
been noticing. I keep thinking to myself.
Right. And you can't think that way because so many people start their careers so late in life. Like
Yeah.
I cannot think of it off the top of my head, but there's some very, very famous author that didn't start until they were like in their 50s. And I cannot think of who it is. I'm sure
Is it
it's
Heming?
multiple.
Yeah, I'm sure it's multiple. For some reason,
It's
Hemingway comes to
multiple.
mind, but I can't remember.
I think it's a more recent. Like Stephen King's in my head, but I know that's not right.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just yeah,
It's weird. It's a weird
it's
thought,
weird.
but I guess you wonder that because there are content creators who are 30 and over, 40 and over
Right.
that are in the same position as a lot of those younger ones I mentioned. But I guess I know that what that audience contains, and I feel like I am like, oh well, am I going to age out of it kind of thing, and is it going to be soon?
Right.
It's weird, but because the answer is kind of no, but that's another plaguing thought that I've had lately is if I want to actually create content and do that for a living, am I too late? The answer is probably no. But I see the grind that a lot of people have gone through to get to where they are at like 22, where they finally have made it after putting in years of work. And it's like I put in years of work, I'm going to be 27, 26 kind of thing. Like it scares me, but it shouldn't because it shouldn't matter. But it's
But it's
something that
it's
I see all
all
the time and hear all the time, and it kind of plagues me that way.
it's a lot of luck too. Like
Oh, it
not trying to
is. It's
say that
100% love.
I'm not trying to say that's not hard work, but like you said,
Yeah.
you put in a lot of hard work too,
Yeah.
and the luck hasn't struck you yet.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you won't, but it's just
And I'm definitely not putting myself in the best position. I mean, I posted a tweet not too long ago. I'll read it real quick just because it ultimately led me to this realization. I think what I really did to myself and kind of hurt myself in a way is that I put myself too much in a limbo of like, I just kept thinking about what I wanted to do and kept imagining what I wanted to do. And then stuff would get in the way, or like life would just get in the way, or I would be working on other stuff like that I had to for the sake of my career or for school or for whatever, right? And then I just kind of never went back and did that stuff and never tried it. Like I should just be trying things at this point, but I'm so scared of failing on the first try. And I think that goes back to kind of what I was referring to when I was a part of that community was you had to kind of get it right the first time. You
right.
here, if I'm just doing stuff for myself, who cares if I fail the first time? Who cares if the first video I make isn't good? And this is something I've been, listening more to from someone like Sam Woodhall, who, um, does a lot of helpful tutorial videos for content creators, stuff like that. And he just keeps saying, like, stop asking me how to get big. Just go make stuff and then figure it out. Like,
Yeah.
just go make stuff for God's sake. Like, that'll be just better off if you just go start making things. But yeah, the main point of what I was saying is that like you just I should just be more willing to try and fail instead of just assuming or hoping that I'm just going to get it right the first time because nobody ever does. Nobody does. It doesn't exist. I just went through a whole client project, but there was a lot of mess ups I had to go back and fix. Now, a lot of them weren't because of me, but definitely stuff I had to deal with and take on. And I should be willing to carry that same energy for my own brand and my own work. I should just be able to do that. But it's hard when it seems like when you start to think that you missed a train when you really didn't. That's basically what it comes down to for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's that like don't put off tomorrow what you could do today type thing, like
Yeah.
even a little bit, even if you can't see it right this second
And I'm
helps.
realizing how short they are and how limited time you have to do the amount of things they have to do. And everybody goes through this type of struggle,
Right.
but it's always so interesting when and it sucks sometimes when you want to make something of yourself, but you feel like you're your own worst enemy about it. It's the weirdest thing. And I look at everything with such a cynical lens where I feel like I'm either behind or I'm not as good as I can be, and I don't know what to blame that on. Where in actuality, I'm probably right where I should be, and that there's a plan for this, and that there's a reason I'm at the spot that I'm at, and it should motivate me to continue to get better.
Well, it's like, look where you are now compared to where you were 1, 2, 3, 5 years ago. Like, you've improved so much type thing. It's that, like, when you take a step every day, you don't see a change in the distance. But then when you do it for a year, you look and you see that you're a mile away type thing.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's, yeah, it can be really, it can be hard. Being a creative heart.
Yeah, no, I mean,
that's the whole point of this podcast.
Well, I wanted to say the point of this podcast is to, share, a lot about ourselves, because we like to think we're interesting, and
I am interesting.
but we joke about ourselves too. If you read the description of everything, is that we say we're underqualified artists. We're early in our careers, but we've been doing a lot of what we do for a while now. But we wanted to share a lot of the kind of triumphs and is it turbulations or tribulations? What is it?
Tribulations.
Tribulations. Triumphs and tribulations that we've gone through over the years to hopefully either appeal to people in our position, people, in just starting out position, or even people above our position. I don't know, because I think every artist, every creatively based person deals with these similar struggles, like there's, we always deal with this type of thing, and are always at war with each other for a lot of things, but there's always an answer somewhere, and there's always a way to kind of figure out these issues, and it just takes a little bit of perseverance to just get through them all, but eventually you end up doing so. I mean, I'll call you out here. You've definitely called me not liking something you were working on or whatever, but after you finished it, you were kind of proud of it. Like, you actually looked at it and was like, you know what? I did that. I finished it. And it's actually not bad looking. Or you would like certain aspects of it that you could at least make yourself be proud of.
Well, there was a span of a whole year where I hated every single doll that I made.
Right.
I hated every single one of them.
Right.
And I only recently got out of that. Like the beginning of this year got out of that. But it's, what can you do?
Yeah,
it just happens.
There's something to be said for continuously being critical of your work. Just don't do it in a way where you like hate yourself for it. Like, you're allowed to be critical of your stuff and identify things that you could improve on. But when it starts to kind of make you feel bad about yourself, or make yourself question yourself as an artist, that's when it gets a little unhealthy, and that's when it's kind of like you can't kind of let it take over you like that, But it's a slippery slope, and I'll be the first to admit that. That it happens frequently, and it sucks. So it's a tough situation. It's always a tough topic to kind of discuss, because there's so many different feelings that goes into everything you create, and you just want to put your best into it, and just sometimes other factors or even yourself might be limiting. So yeah, no, I you're good at what you do. All of you, whatever it is you're doing. All of you, you're wonderful people. You're wonderful artists. Keep doing the thing.
I thought you were saying that to me. I was like, oh, thank you, you too. But no, you're not. You're talking to them.
I gotta talk to the
you're
audience.
Talking to them.
Even Grumble here, whose sole job is just to chill in the center of the screen. You're doing a great job at it, I gotta say. So, yeah, that was my whole tangent on this whole thing. It sucks being so cynical.
Oh, it's okay. We like you anyway.
Oh, do we?
Some might even love you.
I was gonna say, what's this we stuff? Who is enjoying me
it's
so
the
much?
royal we. That's not me.
What? I think Grumble likes me better than you.
Well, I created Grumble, so.
Right, but then you're mean to them.
I'm not mean to them. I'm mean to you.
Right, which is like, they're an extension of us. So if you're mean to me.
I am Grumble's favorite parent.
I'm going back to court with you to get the custody of this kid because this is just not
Custody of
working out,
Grumble.
obviously. Yeah, just get custody of Grumble.
Grumble is their own person.
Hey, let us know in the
Their own
comments who
human.
you think Grumble should go with. That's how we'll do this
We're
court
not
hearing.
doing a custody war.
Yeah.
I don't think the judge will look at our evidence.
You don't want to do a custody war storyline with this lovely character that we've created?
Not particularly.
No, you don't want to do that angle? All right.
No, because they're mine.
Okay, if that's what you say, honey.
But yeah. Thank you everyone for listening. Our last episode did really well on YouTube, so thank you so much for that. But
I'm still trying
Bobby
to figure
was
out why.
Yeah. I told you, like, it was because I was just singing praises about all the other podcasts.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's not even that I would accept we just happen to be, audience found us and they're subscribing and we're gaining a base and that, but we're not. We're literally, for whatever reason, we beat the YouTube algorithm where we're actually getting recommended on other people's videos and like toward the top. And that is like 95%.
We're number one?
95% of the views that have come in.
Wow.
So it's real, but it doesn't tell you where you got recommended.
Right.
So I can't pinpoint what happened, but any love is love, and it's good love. So I'm gonna take it.
And we desperately need it.
But there's a nice little statistic where I think it's like 90% of you are not subscribed.
96%.
Yeah, 96% of you are not currently subscribed. We gotta change that. We want to, enjoy this lair with other people. Obviously, socially distanced, but we want to share this lair with other people, and talk about, creative things. And we want you to join in, but you have to hit that big red subscribe button and hit that bell in order to gain entry. And maybe Grumble will let you in.
If you're on YouTube.
If you're on YouTube, but if you're on any of the audio platforms, which currently just include Spotify and Google, because as of currently, Apple has still not approved us to be on their platform yet. We will announce whenever they decide to get up off their butt and take care of that. But for now, Spotify and Google, and I'm not missing one right
and
now.
here.
And here, of course. If you want to watch the video version, they will always be here on YouTube. But you can feel free to subscribe on any platform you so choose. If you don't like seeing our faces, that's fine. You can totally listen to us on Google or Spotify and subscribe there. Or if you like seeing our pretty faces, and especially Grumble, who always sits dead center, they will always be here, right here on the Gremlin's Lair YouTube channel. So, yeah, there you go.
All right. Mm-hmm. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and we will see you in a little bit. Bye.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that too.